Continuing on in section 9.3 here with example 2, we're going to solve using square roots. So here, first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our x squared by itself. In order to do that, I'm going to add 75. Okay, we get rid of any adding or subtracting first. Then, to get my x squared by itself, I'm going to divide by 3. Now, we're looking for which number could we have squared to get to 25. So to get rid of the square, we take the square root. And I get the square root of 25 is 5. But remember that anytime we take the square root, we need plus or minus. Two options here. Negative 5 times negative 5 gets me 25, and positive 5 times positive 5 gets me to 25. Feel free to pause here and give this a try if you'd like. First thing I'm going to do, since all I have is an m squared and a constant term, guys, is I'm going to get my m squared by itself by adding 36. Again, whenever I do to one side, I have to do to both. Now, to get rid of my square, I take the square root. And when we take the square root, remember we need the plus or minus there. Two options, positive 6 or negative 6. In B, subtract 15. Divide by 3. Now, to get rid of my square, I take the square root. Careful here though, guys, I cannot take the square root of a negative number. So here, I have no solutions. Okay, no solutions. I cannot take the square root of a negative number. See here, I'm going to try and get my variable alone. In order to do that, I'm going to subtract 16. Again, we add or subtract first. And 16 minus 16 is also 0. Make sure you put that 0 and then keep it on the same side of the equal sign. Now, to get rid of my multiplication, I divide. 0 divided by 4 is 0. To get rid of my squared, I take the square root, and we get 0. And we don't need to put plus or minus here, guys. Plus and minus tells us the direction away from 0. 0 is just 0. So don't have plus or minus here. We just have one answer, and that answer is 0. An aquarium is designing a new exhibit to showcase tropical fish. The exhibit will include a tank that is a rectangular prism, as shown on page 563, with a length L that is twice the width W. The volume of the tank is 420 cubic feet. What is the width of the tank to the nearest tenth of a foot? So here, volume equals length times width times height. And we're going to plug in the values that we know. Okay, I know 420 is my volume. I also know that length is twice the width. So length is twice the width. Okay, so 420. Instead of an L, I'm going to put in 2W. W didn't change, so I keep a W. And my height, if we look on page 563, it tells me that my height is 3. So, first thing we do here before we move from one side to the other is to simplify each side. My left side is simple, but my right side can be simpler. So 2 times 3 is 6, W times W is W squared. First step is going to be to divide to get rid of our multiplication. And then to get rid of my square, I take the square root. And the square root of 70 equals W. So here we're looking for width, but if we were looking for length, that's the value I'd plug in for my W. We never want to round until the very last step. So here, the width to the nearest tenth of a foot, when I take that in my calculator, the square root of 70, I get approximately 8.4 feet. I think it's like 8.36 or something like that. So that's approximate width to the nearest tenth of a foot. If we were going to take our length, though, we'd want 2 times the square root of 70, which is going to give me 16.7 feet. So careful there. We don't want to round until the very end. We don't want it to be 8.4 times 2. We want it to be 2 times the square root of 70. Again, we never round until the very, very end. Quick recap here for section 9.3. Quadratic equations can be solved by a variety of methods, including graphing and finding the square root. In many cases, the negative solution of a quadratic equation will not be a reasonable solution to the original problem. Just like on the last one, guys, when we were talking about the width being square root of 70, we don't want negative square root of 70. We can't have negative square root of 70 feet, so just the positive square root of 70 there. And that's all I have for section 9.3.